Starting a new year during a PhD feels different. Every January, the world seems to reset. People talk about fresh starts, about goals and motivations, and becoming a better version of themselves. But research doesn't reset with the calendar. Experiments don't suddenly make sense because it's January. And uncertainty doesn't disappear just because the year has changed. So starting 2026 doesn't feel like a clean slate. It feels more like a continuation. As an international PhD student living in the UK, this year is beginning with me moving between cities, between labs and libraries, between moments of confidence and long stretches of doubt. Most of my days are quiet. They are filled with reading, waiting, analyzing, and commuting. There's a lot of movement, but not always a feeling of progress. When you're doing a PhD, times feel strange. Weeks pass quickly, but milestones feel far away. You're always working towards something. The next experiment, the next dataset, the next review meeting. Yet it rarely feels like you've arrived anywhere. At the start of a new year, that feeling becomes louder because everyone else seems to be moving forward while your work moves in circles. Being an international student adds another layer to all this. There's the distance from home, the time difference, the quiet awareness that your support system exists mostly on a screen. There's also the constant background noise of logistics. Visas, funding timelines, eligibility, rules that can change without warning. You're not only asking, is my research good enough? You're also asking, will I be allowed to stay long enough to finish it? Sometimes that pressure doesn't show up as stress. It shows up as fatigue, a kind of tiredness that isn't solved by sleep, a mental load that's always present, even on good days. You learn to carry it quietly, because everyone around you is carrying something too. Biological sciences, especially, teach you patience. Experiments don't care how hard you've worked. They don't care about deadlines or resolutions. They don't care how much you need the data to work. You can do everything right and still get nothing. That's a hard lesson to learn, and even harder to accept year after year. There's a version of a PhD that people imagine. It's exciting, it's full of discovery, it looks like progress. The reality is much quieter. Most days are repetition, most breakthroughs are small, and most of your effort is invisible to anyone who isn't doing the same thing. At the start of 2026, I've been thinking a lot about expectations. Not just the expectations others have of me, but the ones I placed on myself. The pressure to be productive, to publish, to move faster, to prove that this was worth it. For a long time, I thought motivation was the problem. That if I could just feel more inspired, everything would become easier. But over time, I've realized that motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It disappears during long experiments. It fades during setbacks. So this year, I'm not chasing motivation. I'm choosing consistency instead. Showing up even when the work feels low. Even when progress isn't obvious. Even when I'm not sure where this is all leading. There's a cost to this life that people don't always talk about. Financially, a PhD doesn't offer much flexibility. You budget carefully. You plan around stipends. You think twice about travel, about time off, about rest. And then there's the emotional post. The quiet comparison to friends who moved into stable jobs. The feeling of being in between stages of life. Not a student, not fully a professional. There are moments when the commute says more than the words ever could. Long train rides, early mornings, late evenings. Time spent moving between places, thinking about experiments, thinking about home, thinking about the future. Those moments hold a lot of reflection. At the start of this year, I don't have dramatic resolutions. I'm not promising myself success. I'm not promising clarity. What I hope for is smaller. I hope for patience with myself. I hope for fewer comparisons. I hope for the ability to recognize progress even when it's slow. I also hope for honesty. Honesty about how hard this can be, about how lonely it can feel, about how normal it is to doubt yourself during a PhD, especially as an international student. It can feel like you're not allowed to struggle, like you should be grateful enough for the opportunity. That difficulty becomes something you're not supposed to mention. But difficulty doesn't mean failure. Struggle doesn't mean you don't belong. And feeling behind doesn't mean you're behind. It usually just means you're doing something complex in a system that wasn't designed to be easy. As 2026 begins, I'm trying to hold space for uncertainty, not rushing to resolve it, not demanding answers before they are ready. Some things will become clearer with time. Some things won't. And that's uncomfortable. But it's also part of research and part of growth. If you're watching this and starting the year feeling tired, or unsure, or quietly overwhelmed, you're not alone. A lot of us are beginning this year not with excitement, but with persistence. Not with big goals, but with the intention to keep going.